Now, the last thing I want to talk to you about, and one of these topics, which is kind of amazing, right? We've been saying this for a very, very long time. Again, I'm not touting my horn or anything, but it just, the environment made perfect sense for Bitcoin to go much, much higher. And now we're seeing that right now. To me, Daniel, I think things are different compared to 2017. Guys, if you're out there listening to this, I have a lot of crypto people. We have a crypto newsletter. Our performance is fantastic in it. And because I have great, great contacts. For those of you who are diehards in the industry, I would love to see stats. I could research it myself, but again, I'm busy these days. If you can, help me out. Where the percentage of people who own it, or even the Google statistics that are looking, searching for it, because I remember those statistics in 2017, and it was used as like a buying point. Well, only 2% of people even understand what Bitcoin even is. I think that number is exploded now. It's everywhere. Even cab drivers are talking about Bitcoin. And to me, that makes me think that this trend is probably very early in its infancy, not just digital securities, but when you look at it as a whole, where what's going on with central governments and more spending, right? I mean, this is one of the options that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, bring me back to Bitcoin, because I have to joke real quickly about the Fed news. So yesterday, Judy Shelton was an informal advisor to Trump or whatever. She didn't pass the vote in the Senate to be on the Fed board, I believe. And the only reason that's worth news and kind of funny is because a couple Republicans, Mitt Romney and the senator out of Maine who run weirdly, Susan, I think, were going against her, so they weren't sticking to party lines. A couple of the independents. But the big thing here is that they scared everybody because Judy Shelton in the past had been a fan of the gold standard, returning to the gold standard, had totally different thoughts on inflation, kind of like, if you're really trying to help the poorest people in the world, why would you try to increase prices every year? Common sense stuff like that. And I mean, the people are throwing fits, and it's hilarious. The funny thing is that the reason I bring that up with Bitcoin is because a lot of times, and I got to give them credit, both Jamie Dimon and Ray Dalio, banker for JP Morgan Chase and Bridgewater hedge fund manager. Have you seen any recent comments they talked about?
A lot of them, a lot of hedge fund managers. Yeah.
So Ray went on Twitter recently, I don't know if it was yesterday or day before, and said, hey, I might be getting this Bitcoin thing wrong. I'd love it to get explained. He threw out his points. Hey, here's what I don't like, and people are going to respond and all that. At least he's open-minded. I know Jamie Dimon was speaking yesterday or today at something and was saying, hey, it's just still not my cup of tea. But you got to give them credit for not hiding and kind of going out there and admitting they could be wrong, because it's going to, 18,000 right now.
It's not his cup of tea, but yet they're totally involved. JP Morgan's totally
on the blockchain too. Yeah. And he said that again today. You got to give him credit. He says, hey, I think the blockchain is going to really help move money around the world. It's going to be huge for institutions and different money things. So you got to give him that credit. The reason I'm explaining the Fed in the scary person of Judy Shelton and the gold standard is because Bitcoin to me has never been that hard to understand if the concept of a limited amount, the 21 million, proves to be correct. And as long as that still does, I don't see why it's a big grasp to get a higher price on something that's limited, because people as humans, you value scarcity. That's why gold still holds value, et cetera, et cetera. So it reminded me of a funny conversation in 2017. It was damn near 20,000 then. And a guy in Ohio said, hey, man, I just bought a little bit of Bitcoin. What do you think? And I said, well, I have no idea what it's going to do, but I said, just forget about it. Well, as it went down to 5,000 and 4,000, who knows what he did? I haven't talked to him or, asked him, but it'd be interesting because now it's damn near right back to it. Talk about your emotions changing and say, oh, well, maybe I wasn't that silly back then or whatever. But yeah, I think with the government doing its thing, both Ray Dalio and Jamie Dimon actually hint at governments making it illegal or further restriction, which, Frank, when governments outlaw something, everything goes away, right? Drugs, prostitutes, you stop all your bad habits, and everything loses its value. If pot is illegal, pot's worthless. Nobody's going to pay for it ever again. These people.
I love that, because when it comes to even with COVID, I think it was April and May, they had the strip bars. So they weren't allowed to go indoors, but they had them almost like
somebody did a
drive-throughs where they had these spaces available. And when it comes to sex and drugs, they're always gonna find a way, no matter what.
I wish I could remember what state did that.
Yeah, we're all bad people when it comes to that. We're all terrible. Drugs are bad, sex is bad, all this stuff, right? So it's kind of.
But I think it's great how they highlight, and I appreciate Dalio for saying, hey, I think they're just going to basically governments would make it illegal, or I think Diamond was saying how the regulation could be more strict. We'll get into this in another time, but that's a bigger point because why would you make something illegal that all people are trying to do is efficiency, cheaper, and transparency? So that's a rabbit trail for another time. But it's easy to say now that Bitcoin, is approaching near its previous all-time highs. But yeah, I mean, it still makes sense, and you're seeing a lot more money and news around it. So hell, but now it's all of a sudden back to 60,000 and then 100,000 Bitcoin. And didn't you highlight the City guy? Didn't he put a 318,000 by like the end of next year?
You know what? When it comes to
think about that,
it kind of pisses me off because the guy was basically, this is on technicals, which how are you using technicals when you never broke, right? 20, 21,000, whatever. Why are you using technicals for at that level? Not only that, you're citing a fundamental reason for gold with the gold standard in the 70s. And why gold took off, but it's a guy that wants to get his name in the paper, and it pisses me off because, we're into digital assets as well. We have a security token, CEO, Curzio Equity Owners token. And I believe in this industry, not all those utility garbage tokens, but I do believe in digital assets. And then when I see guys like this come out with stupid targets, it makes, to me, it's a negative because people are skeptical about the industries. Like you could say 35,000, 50,000, same thing. But it's from Citigroup. So go crazy. This way we get all his attention. And to me, it's, I just get pissed off at things. We heard $1 million targets in 2017, 18, and look what happened. But, it's just, and he thinks that's going to happen next year, by the way.
I know. I think it was December of 2021.
2021, next year.
Yeah.
How crazy is that?
Hey, that'd be nice. Anybody that owns Bitcoin is a fan of that.
Yeah. And I'm sure he'll say, well, I got it right if it's at 30,000. Right? He's going to be like, I told you it was going high.
Hey, it's higher.
Say 300,000.
Last thing I do want to say on that, because we have seen, I put it in the token tracker email, but there's been a couple of companies that have bought Bitcoin to kind of use as basically their treasury, which is interesting to me. Awesome. And then Zero Hedge had, and I'll butcher his name, so I'm not even going to say it, but apparently Mexico's third richest man, who's worth 11 or 12 billion, put 10% of his in Bitcoin, of his net worth. Now, you still are rich even if that goes to zero, but that's a big deal. So
no, it is. All right, so we covered a lot of topics there, and guys, questions, comments, feel free to email frank@curzioresearch.com. Daniel, I want to thank you for coming on. I love having you on. We get a lot of positive feedback. Love discussing these topics with you.
We're getting some good negative ones too. I like that.
Yeah, keep
it's good to be
ones.
on. The show must go on. Look how much pain we're working through here.
We're gonna work on the negative ones. So stop bitching about your pain. You'll be fine. 6'6", man. Give me a break.